Won't open until 2025.
Oh my god!
Yeah, surprise, surprise, Top Thrill 2 will not be opening this year. I called it over a month ago that they would delay this ride till 2025, and Lord and behold, I was correct. Yippee. Cedar Point just released a press statement right before the end of August, by the way, saying that Top Thrill 2 will not be opening this year, and they were working hard with the manufacturer Zamperla to work on the coaster vehicle's modifications. We're so sorry for this inconvenience, we'll get the ride open next year, yada yada yada, all that basic PR stuff. But besides the fact that Cedar Point said this ride will be opening next year, the main thing I took away from the statement was it has something to do with the ride vehicles. One particular, we still don't know. My money is still in the wheels, and just like I said before, if that was the reason, it would explain why this is taking so long. If Cedar Point has to redo an integral part of the ride vehicle, that being the wheels, then no matter what, that's going to take some time. In the engineering process, when you find an issue with something, you first have to discover the problem, redesign, prototype, test, and find any new errors that may occur. Then you repeat the process. Prototype, test, redesign, over and over again until you fix it. There's no way around this. The main issue for why it would take even longer is because they're prototyping on a prototype. The Lightning trains were already a new design for Zamperla. They had to completely design this from scratch. They didn't have an extended backlog of roller coasters that they built that they were able to learn from. They're new in the space, so this ambitious project of Top Thrill 2 was kind of doomed from the start. And now that we're seeing this ride open next year, I'm just solidifying my position that Zamperla was an awful choice for Cedar Point. You see Intamin, the original creator of Top Thrill Dragster, building these elite rides across the world like Falcon's Flight, and then you see little old Zamperla over here failing to redo a coaster and having to push it back an entire year, and you just think, why couldn't Cedar Point go with Intamin? I know Volcano and Shoot the Rapids was kind of a bust, but come on, patch up that friendship. That company at least knows what they're doing. I know I'm being harsh on Zamperla, but I don't really care. Remember, you and I are the consumer, and we were delivered a bad product. Cedar Point was delivered a bad product. The ride was only open for 1 week. They basically gave a Top Thrill 2 preview in 2024 before the big opening year in 2025. So now the consumer has nothing, and we're just expected to wait another year. What is this Six Flags-like buffoonery? Did that merger in July already kill Cedar Point's integrity? Obviously, I'm just kind of joking right now. I'm mainly putting all the blame on Zamperla. But I don't know, man. I can't believe this ride was such a flop. It looked so promising, the reviews were great, and now I have to wait an entire calendar year to try to ride it. I'm surprised Cedar Point just mentioned the trains, because it seemed like there were a lot of other issues with Top Thrill Dragster. Over the last few weeks since I made that initial video, we saw a lot of workers examining the old track from the original Top Thrill Dragster, primarily on the main tower, and that got me even more worried because will Cedar Point have to replace all that track? I know the original Dragster was kind of old, but it was only about 20 years, and now it seems like the ride has reached the end of its service life. There could only be two reasons for this. One, the track may have corroded to a point where it's beginning to crack, or two, the weight of the new trains is causing too much stress on the track to a point where it's breaking. To show you a quick science lesson for how this happens, all materials, they have a certain elasticity, which is a ratio of stress divided by strain, which is the force divided by area divided by the change in length. All materials have this characteristic. There is a certain linear slope where material can bend without deforming. Once you go past this, it can be deformed, then it can harden, and then it will be necking, which means it will crack. This happens if the force of the new trains is too strong, or if the strain of the old track is flexing too much. It will cause deformation and breakage. Another thing to keep in mind, if it's not corrosion, it could be that the new track is just better engineered than the old track. Remember, the old track was not made for these new trains, and it definitely doesn't account for its new weight. So would it be a safe bet to say that the new trains is correlating to the track cracking? Possibly. However, I'm gonna hold off on that assessment, because Cedar Point, they have been chipping away at the old paint on the supports, and you can see that it's pretty corroded and rusted away. So if we go with the assumption that this ride is past its prime, then Cedar Point, they're gonna have to make a choice. Do they tear off all the old track and replace it, and invest even more capital into this ride, and completely redo it? But what happens if that doesn't work out? What if after they replace all the track and maybe a few supports, it turns out that the foundation can't support the new weight? Then what will happen? Will they have to completely redo the entire structure, dig in new foundations? I know I'm going into worst case scenarios, but I don't know what's going on with this ride. Before we thought it was just the trains, now it's apparently the track and the supports. I can't trust what Cedar Point says at face value because they are definitely hiding something. And again, if they do go through with replacing all the track on this ride, I don't even see this opening in 2025. The manufacturing process is a whole other obstacle. Roller coasters take years to build and design. So if it turns out that out of the blue, Zamperla, they now have to create an entire shipment of track for the top hat, that's gonna take longer than a year. They had no prep work, no prior notice. This is basically building a new roller coaster at the drop of a hat. There is no possible way they can get this done by 2025 and also ensure quality. I hope it's just the lightning train, and that they were just making some checks on the structure. I don't think that's true though. If this problem is even worse than we thought, then I do think Top Thrill Dragster, it will go away. Cedar Point, they can only pour so much money into a failing project until they just pull the plug because it's not worth it anymore. Cedar Point, they have other companies to worry about. They have contracts for different rides they gotta build. It may seem like no big deal to you and I if they just push back another edition by one more year, but Cedar Point, they have agreements with other companies. It's hard to reallocate capital. Do you think Cedar Point's partners will be understanding about the Top Thrill 2 situation? No, just like Cedar Point, they're a company. They have binding agreements for their products. They can't just be waiting around, they gotta make money too. That's the whole point of a contract, so they can't back out of it. So if Cedar Point continues to foot the bill for Top Thrill 2, it's gonna put a wedge not just between Cedar Point and Zamperla, but other companies they work with. I have no doubt in my mind that Cedar Point, they're gonna cut ties with Zamperla once Top Thrill 2 is done. Cedar Point's already soured towards Intamin and RMC, and whatever issues they had with those companies, it seems very petty when you compare it to Top Thrill 2. Zamperla, they appeared promising for 1 week and 1 week only, but the moment Top Thrill 2 shut down, it became very apparent that Zamperla, they're not up to the challenge. This will be a huge blow to the company. I assumed a lot of parks, they were looking at Zamperla before, but after Top Thrill 2, they're probably darting their eyes towards a different competitor. Whether they like it or not, they are a risky company now. They just gotta get the ride open, take the L, and probably invest a lot more into their roller coaster division because they were not ready. And if they still can't do it, then Cedar Point, bring back Intamin, baby. Come on, let's go. Let's see that Top Thrill 3. I don't want to see the dragster leave. It's such an icon for Cedar Point. It is their most recognizable ride. But a park can only take so much before they say, screw it, it's not worth it anymore. Just demolish it and we'll try something else. It's hard to believe that one unfortunate incident from only a few years ago has sparked this massive powder keg of failure, rebirth, and failure again. I just hope that at the end of all of these problems, it'll be worth it.